Black Myth Wukong is just around the corner, and I think that is a nice idea to remember what is it that the combat is going to offer to us, what is it that we're going to have to focus on, and one thing that I should like to mention is that they say that the game is to some extent difficult, but it also has lots and lots and lots of different tools so that you can take on those different challenges that you have out there. So, in this video we'll try to cover as much as possible for the combat system in Black Myth Wukong. Have in mind though that this is all based on developer interviews, reviews that have come out in the past few days that confirmed those interviews and the gameplay footage that we have been receiving throughout the years. Everything that I'll touch in here will be based mostly on what we know that is confirmed thanks to those reviews. And it didn't change because I'm using a whole bunch of information of the basic systems from back when the development team was about 30 folk. Now they have a workforce of around like 200 people. So, the basics. There's 5 boss, 4 of them being combat based and the other one not that much. Health, pretty basic. Stamina to manage combat flow attacks and dodges. Mana, the magic in Wukong, it's a tad different from your regular RPG. Although we'll touch on this a little bit more later on, suffice to say that there's a spell and magic system in here. Then we have the focus you use for this huge high damaging attacks, finishers. And finally, will, which is basically experience. You don't lose it on death, you actually just lose a little bit, so there's not like corpse regain system, and the level system is not as deep as you would have on different regular RPGs or like in Souls games, for example. Which, yes, this game shares some kind of similarities to Souls games, but even developers do not like for them to compare to that. It's just more like a ARPG more than anything, an action RPG. Mostly there's skill trees and such for the vast majority of it. So let's elaborate a little bit more on those thus and what they impact more heavily in the game. Stamina and focus are really the most hand to hand. You'll notice that usually using Wukong light attacks you barely do chip damage, hardly noticeable. It wouldn't really be effective to kill a boss with basic attacks. Well, there's perfect dodges you need to time and manage with stamina. Those will fill up your focus bar, which is the main damage dealer. The focus bar can be leveled up to 4 times, and it doesn't stay on always. You have to either use it or continue building it to sustain the 4th one. At least the other one, the three other ones, you can actually have them as long as you want to. Then, once you have enough focus points that you want to use, you can use them to charge the heavy attack for a big punisher that deals tons of damage. Now, that's not the extent of it, because that damage will be dependent not only on how much focus do you have, but what combos are you performing with it. What combos are you using to have that finisher for that heavy focus point. Suffice to say that the longer your attack animation or commitment to that attack, the longer the damage. However, you also need to have in mind the enemy patterns, the attacks and windows, because we wouldn't want to whiff the attack gets staggered or the enemy moving from a different place after you build all of that precious focus. So that's why we have mana as well. We have a magic system. You have a plethora of weird spells and usages to help you capitalize your damage and focus. For example, you might have seen that one that stops time on the enemy, perfect opportunity for big punishers. Or the one where you use multiple versions of you. There's also the one that does a similar thing when you dodge to summon a double. The aggro from your shadows clones can be used to capitalize on those big punishers as well. All rounded up and adding my bias in here, I wouldn't say that there's like a sorcerer build per se, or like the ability to make a full sorcerer build. More so like using these tools, aggro, stuns, staggers with magic, so you can take advantage of the heavy focus attacks instead of brute forcing them. Then again, There are tools that you can decide whether or not to use. The game does have a skill tree, and you can either have lots of different spells that allow you to use all kind of crazy tools to do finishers or to stun people, or you can just beef up your character on a melee fashion, and everything from your character rely on movement pattern memorization, knowing when and when not to use your focus and such, depending on the animations, the skeletons, the iframes, and the recovery frames that the enemies have before after they have performed a combo. All of those are just tools that you'll be able to use to your advantage. And then we have the combat stances. You unlock them as you level up, and you use them depending on the situation as you see fit. So far, we know that there's basically 3 of them. The basic one, the one that you use to basically fight and continue your combos, and this one can also be used for a whirlwind type of attack that both deals damage and deflects projectiles at the same time. And then we have one where you elongate the staff, perch on it, and slam it on the ground to deal massive damage. Although this seems to leave you vulnerable to some things and protect you from others. Let me elaborate a little bit more on that. So for example, ground enemies that don't have the reach to be able to deal damage to you, they don't have means of dealing damage from a distance, they won't be able to hit you, and you can perfectly fine just punish them. It's a perfect stance for them. However, if you're fighting something that has some kind of range, you're vulnerable. If you're fighting a massive big monster that has the size of the staff and the hitbox of the monster, it's bigger than you being perched on the top of the staff, you're vulnerable. The other one is to some extent similar. It has the final one, it has the very same concept, but that one elongates the staff to do a thrusting attack, and I personally think that this is going to be one of the most useful and one of my personal favorite ones, because you basically have nice huge damage to punish the enemies whilst still being far away from the enemy. Then we have the transformations. There's lots of them, and it seems to some extent that you can get them and upgrade them by exploring the world. That's one incentive to exploring the world as well. They're very interesting because there seems to be like 2 different types of transformations. The instant ones, the ones that have barely a single specific use, and that's it. You use them and that's it. They only do that one thing when you press them, when you actually summon them. Their traits depend on them. Whether it is you use them for defensive purposes, applying status ailments and such, there's like many of them. And as for the status ailments, you have like the basic stuff from every other game. Poison, fire, electric, at least those are the ones that we know for sure that they are there. And then you have the sustain transformations, the one that turn you into a specific monster, demon or fighter, and you use them to fight for a set period of time. They can be all kind of different transformations that have all kind of different purposes. So for example, a big monster that has huge AoE attacks that allows you to clear mobs of enemies when you feel that you're struggling against them, or that they are, pardon the redundance, mobbing you. The first full transformation that you'll obtain on the game is the Wolf Captain. It has some kind of a flame twin blade that applies burning to the enemies, and the cool thing about the full transformations is that they are like a second life. They have their own health bar, and there's only 2 ways that you can lose them. Either if their health bar is depleted or the timer runs off. And the timer is actually very generous as well. You always have a clear idea of how long do you have left of usage for it. So those are the generals of combat in Black Myth Wukong, and as you can see, there's much stuff that you can do in here. There's a lot of deftness to the combat, there's many tools. People that have played the review, that have already have the chance to play the game, that they posted the reviews, they compare the difficulty, yes, to for example Elden Ring, DLC Shadow of the Earth 3, although however, the thing is that there's kind of a respec scenario in here, so there's many tools that you can use to fight against the different things that you have in front of you. It's, I'd say that it's not more of this dance or vaults that you have with the boss that you're fighting against, of being able to just do 1 or 2 light attacks after some little thing. It's the thing of focusing your focus, managing your focus points for those heavy finishers, to use your magic properly, to use your summons. There's many things that you're going to be able to have in here, and they have beautiful animations. Anyways, if you like the content, a like and a video is super appreciated. And also, you today you're a gorgeous and beautiful person, you're indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, have a beautiful day.